Rice is indispensable in the Bhutanese culture, tradition, religion, and it is a way of life. It is in fact a source of livelihood itself. To a Bhutanese, no meal is complete without a plateful of rice. About 69% of the population is engaged in farming, where rice is the main crop. Rice is by far the most important food crop of the Bhutanese with a per capita consumption of 152 kilograms. It is mainly consumed in the form of steamed rice. Rice is processed into different local products such as sao, sip, meku, and many others. Bhutanese farmers cultivate a large diversity of rice, which include the popular red rice varieties, white and specialty rice for some special social needs. In Bhutan, rice is grown in 3 major ecosystems, which are irrigated ecosystem, rain-fed ecosystem, and upland ecosystems. It is cultivated in all the 20 districts. Rice cultivation in Bhutan ranges from about 200 meters above sea level in the south to over 2,700 meters above sea level in the north. Owing to its small size of just 38,394 square kilometers, that is largely dominated by rugged mountainous terrain in the mighty Himalayas, only less than 3% of its geographical area is available for arable agriculture. However, the size of the country has not restricted the richness and extent of rice diversity in Bhutan. Local diversity has always remained the basis of food security of the Bhutanese. Studies have recorded that there are over 384 different rice varieties and land races in the country. Despite the government's humongous effort in enhancing rice production, it is able to meet only about half of its total requirement. Rice farming is increasingly becoming vulnerable to the loss of productive rice fields, to rapid urbanization, decreasing availability of water due to the rising demand for water, increasing variability of climate, drying of water sources, shortage of farm labor, low returns per unit area, and rampant crop predation by wild animals. As a result of these factors, the area in rice varieties cultivated by farmers is rapidly diminishing. To augment the Department of Agriculture's efforts to sustain rice farming, the National Biodiversity Center, with funds from the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, initiated the project for participatory conservation of rice genetic resources for livelihood and food security in Bhutan. The project was nationally executed by the National Biodiversity Center, which is the national agency for coordination of biodiversity conservation programs in Bhutan. The national project partners include the regional research and development centers of the Department of Agriculture, Dzongkhag and Gyeok agriculture sectors, and the farming communities.
Our main endeavor through this project is to enhance the resilience of our farming communities through farmer-oriented participatory approaches, which was implemented in close collaboration with the Research and Development Center as well as the field extension agents. This project focused purely on rice genetic resources, mainly because rice is the major staple in our national food basket.
This on-farm rice conservation project was launched in 2012 in 3 districts representing the different agroecological zones and production systems. Samtsi and Samrup Dzongkhag represent the subtropical and humid subtropical zones, which is dominated by irrigated and rain-fed rice ecosystem, while Mongar in the east represents the dry subtropical and warm temperate agroecology with some upland ecosystem. The activities were initially started in 5 sites. In 2014, the project was further expanded to 2 more districts with 7 additional sites. The direct beneficiaries of this project is estimated to be over 300, while the indirect beneficiaries are well over 3,000. The primary objective of the project is to strengthen the livelihood and food security of farming communities through participatory conservation, development and utilization of rice genetic resources. It aimed to contribute towards the reduction of poverty through sustainable rice production, strengthening the capacity of farmers on rice production, protection of farmers' water sources, and subsequently enhance the conservation of rice genetic resources in the project sites.
Komaga barlisho dangboga asu andur bani milamela onu chola onu pinja barli mado asonamle hungai ripsi bangdur nang chola onu magi mana pilean tenkungla koan lisorsor pilan oni jiligilala komage bupini oma bupini en pilakan dalala.
The different project activities implemented include participatory variety selection of high-yielding and locally adapted climate-resilient rice varieties, in situ and ex situ conservation of rice germplasm by facilitating seed exchange, seed selection, seed production and distribution, support to community seed bank, and collection of local varieties of rice for conservation. Seed production and rehabilitation of locally adapted resilient traditional rice varieties as adaptation mechanism to the impacts of climate change. Provision of solar fencing for protection of crops against the rampant crop predation by wild animals. Protection of farmers' water sources and irrigation facilities to secure water for rice production.
남섬이 치료 오토가 깐노 후다치니 아자르나모 오토 슈니 오토 오물만 남섬이 동동되나라 여러가지 피어 마락tum다 니 아니 스나미 비중기부터 기도진나니 니 어디니 로데나 오데야 되게니 마상마다 옥도 출리가니 러당 밀람 치르자 아다줄래라
यो आइटिपिटिआरएफ को प्रोजेक्टले चाहिँ अब के गर्यो भन्दाखेरि 150 एकड़ जमिनमा चाहिँ लगभग 1.5 किलोमिटर जस्तो कुलो दिएर हामीलाई फाइदा दिएको छ। यो कुलो दिएपछि चाहिँ हामीले अब हिउँदे खेती गहुँ भयो यो आलु भयो साग सब्जी भयो यिनीहरुलाई पनि पुरा फाइदा दिन सक्ने रहेछ र त्यसो हुँदाखेरि हामीले हाम्रो तर्फबाट चाहिँ धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु।
Despite its size and small geographical coverage, the rice conservation project has considerably benefited the subsistence Bhutanese farming communities. The project impacts have spread across economic, scientific, and social dimensions. The small yet notable economic benefits of the project are its contribution towards increased rice production arising from the supply of high-quality seeds of high-yielding rice varieties, promotion of upland rice, increased availability of water from protection of water sources, and effective protection of crop from predation by wild animals. According to Apsonam of Banjar, his annual rice purchase has decreased substantially and he has even sold rice worth 30,000 by cultivating upland rice.
감시나베 레투니기 레림치 고축데 남에서메 가딘 체이시 슈닐 데데 시미디와 녜기 아치치 트라수치 촌이디기 세미야 가이 세슈니 나행아기 감시나 레 축디기베 선 템퍼처 베수치 세슈닐라 때로 tonto 숨주디 지기 선 슝루 추추치 아니기 녜랑 나라에서 녜라 유 텔레 슝루타데 가소 유 세슈닐라 가딘체.
In the scientific front, the project has been instrumental in strengthening the on-farm conservation of rice genetic diversity through the capacity development of researchers, extension workers, and farmers. It has widely advocated the need and importance of crop genetic resources conservation and promoted the use of scientific methodologies for participatory variety selection and improved techniques for good seed selection and variety maintenance. It has also strengthened seed purification and rehabilitation of locally adapted traditional rice varieties.
Through this project, we were able to strengthen the technical capacity of over 300 project stakeholders, which include researchers, policymakers, extension workers, and farmers. The capacity development was done in the form of in-country trainings, ex-country institutional visits, awareness campaigns, workshops, and field days.
Some of the social impacts of the project are the improvement of household food security from increased rice production at the project sites, increase in rice varietal diversity and empowerment of the farmers with better skills and knowledge on rice farming.
흉가린 시대 때문에 민사고 낭 비아테 접주나면 섬에 직대 다 우리 충사야 담이기 아우소기 요함에 오빠 랑테 우리기 서 랑토 데슈사인라 나힐레라다 흉기 도람 낭마신두라다 미스랑 보기 셈슈기 데다 나니와 두지 작텔라다 어디팡 포푸라 땅트 신델라다 두지와다 야르게 송테 다 에카치다 나니와 두지 작바베테다 야 베루라다 두나 같이 이 강라뽕 이생기 쇼파다 두나구 뿌라 소토 데슈상라 다 소파신두라 다 같이 미스르기 볼메샥바 두나구 뿌라 자릭테 다 우리 자릭테라다 라비아테 땅상 토두데 땅상제 슈상인라.
It has also created increased awareness on the impacts of climate change. The project has also contributed to household food security by reducing the human-wildlife conflict by supporting communities with solar fencing.
보랑바르가 착니쇼 아데케니 보랑가리다 셈진기 아이텐 가오자니 답간 톡해보니 자차게 자탐바니 두스베가레고 말라 니 자차게 샤마 딘주팡 리다 셈진기 보랑 박바당 잘라 디 오년 분종라럭데 앙암탄나니 록메가 레당 turca다니 록데기 एक बगना था नि शिवाजिंदु नमनि चादा इंसुलेजला आशिबोनि 동안라레 타바감니 남섬에 펜독 고마게 마다카니 펜독 칠로 중두메닥 바가 자차게 자 인슐레질라.
The project directly contributed to the conservation of rice genetic diversity in many different ways. Some of these are through strengthening farmers' traditional seed system, improving their seed selection techniques, developing community seed banks, rehabilitation of seeds of traditional rice varieties, and increased farmer-to-farmer seed exchange that was facilitated through study visits, seed bank visits, and agro-biodiversity fairs. According to the project coordinator, the stakeholders have learned many lessons from the implementation of this project.
On-farm conservation is indeed a very vast subject. It not only involves science, it also requires enabling policy environment. Through this project, we have learned that on-farm conservation of crops such as rice deals with diverse agro-ecosystems and farmers with the different level of socio-economic status. To accomplish the project goals, there is a need to adopt more innovative, site-specific interventions. Climate change is a reality, and the increasing frequency of extreme weather events and its impact on farming is apparent. Increased on-farm diversity stands out to be one of the sustainable coping strategies of the subsistence farmers to the impacts and the risks from climate change, and this needs to be further strengthened. Increasing scarcity of water for rice production and human-wildlife conflict are the two major challenges for sustainable rice farming in Bhutan.
Despite many accomplishments that are highlighted, much still remains to be done. There are many formidable challenges ahead for the project stakeholders to address before they fully realize their goals of participatory on-farm conservation of rice genetic resources in Bhutan. Nonetheless, the rice conservation has made substantial notable contributions. In conclusion, the rice conservation project was highly relevant and its objectives were consistent with the local needs of the subsistence Bhutanese farming communities. The project outputs have in many ways contributed to realization of higher goals of poverty reduction and improvement of livelihoods of the farming communities. The project has significantly strengthened the ongoing initiatives on the on-farm conservation of rice genetic diversity. It has indeed helped to take forward the initiatives on conservation, development, and sustainable utilization of rice diversity for food security and adaptation to climate change in the country.